whether it's the holiday season or any other special occasion, is the best way to level up your prime rib game. Today I'm going to walk you through how to make a smoked prime rib. This is probably the easiest preparation I've ever done, so I'm really happy to walk you through this and show you how I got here. Here we have a beautiful prime rib from our local butcher, and it's weighing about 12.5 pounds. Now this is exactly the way I got it from the butcher, so we need to do a few things to get it ready for our smoker. Number one, we need to pat our roast dry with some paper towel. Then after that, we'll be ready to start our trimming process. We're going to take the fat cap down to about 1/4 inch, just like we would a brisket, so that we can season, and then we'll be ready for the smoker. Now all we're doing is getting the excess moisture, which is basically just water, on the outside of this roast off, so that our binder, which is going to be olive oil today, will stick a little better. And then once that olive oil is sticking, that olive oil as a binder is going to help our seasoning stick. Now, as far as the fat cap, we don't want to go too deep. But you can see right here, it's a little thick, so we're going to take a strip out from right there. We're going to take a lot of this little tail piece off too, just because it's unnecessary, at least for the smoking process. You can use those juices to make a jus or a sauce, hand sauce, things like that. But we're going to do a really simple smoke on this guy, and we're going to be looking for the flavors from our seasoning and the smoker. A lot of this tends to kind of peel off too, so you can use that as a guideline. So this tail piece that I just took off here, this is, you can see, 95% fat. So you can use this to make some tallow. You can break it down, you can grind this up into your sausage or something like that too. But for this, we just don't need it, so we're gonna set this aside. All trimmed up, so now we're gonna use a little bit of olive oil. And this is gonna be our binder. The binder is gonna help the seasoning adhere to the meat so that not as much sloughs off during the cooking process. We're also going to let it rest at room temperature once the seasoning's on there. And these processes are going to really get us some nice penetration of the salts and the flavors. For our prime rib, we're using our Prime Time buttery beef rub. This is almost exactly what this seasoning was designed for. It's got beefy flavors, salt, herbs, and lots of butter flavor in there. So it's going to complement our meat really well. So we're going to start on the underside of our roast, and we're going to go nice and generous. Because you got to remember, there's a lot of meat here. A lot of meat calls for a lot of seasoning. So we're going to pat that in, get it to stick a little better. Now that olive oil is doing its work, holding that seasoning to the meat as well. And now we're going to let our roast rest for about 20 to 30 minutes at room temperature to develop those meat sweats, which is that seasoning adhering, combining with our binder and the juices of the meat so that it doesn't slough off during the smoking process. In the meantime, we're going to get our smoker preheated to 180 degrees so that we have a nice warm cabinet to go into. We need to truss our roast. Now the reason for trussing is to get a more consistent and even size throughout our roast. You can see that different sides of the roast come in different sizes. Sometimes they flatten. So what we want to do is get a more circular, even consistent side on both ends. That way our roast is going to cook a lot more evenly and we'll have a great color and hopefully a beautiful medium rare throughout. We've got our sawdust pan ready for our smoke. Last thing we got to do is get our Bluetooth meat probe inserted. I like going from the top right down into the center of our roast, and we're ready for the smoker. So let's head outside. For our smoking process, we used our Pro Classic. We started on smoke mode set to 180 degrees with a nice preheated cabinet. We placed our prime rib roast directly on the rack. We placed the sawdust pan on the heating element. After that initial 2 hours, we removed the sawdust pan, and then we changed from smoke setting to cook setting. We increased the temperature of the smokehouse to 225 degrees, and we let it slow roast in there for about 4 hours. Once our roast reached 120 degrees internal temperature, we pulled it from the smoker, and now we're ready to go into a nice hot oven for our searing process. I have our oven set to 425 degrees, and that's where we're going to finish our roast. Once we reach an internal temperature of about 132 to 135 degrees, we're going to pull our roast and let it rest. So setting this into a 425 degree oven took about 45 minutes to get up to 130 degrees internal temperature. At that point, we pulled it because I thought it was climbing temperature well enough. I put a foil sheet over it so it could rest, and it rested for about another 45 minutes. It came up to a total internal temperature of 136 degrees, which should be a perfect medium rare for our roast. And now I took off the trussing from half of it, and I'm going to leave half of it on because I'm assuming I'm only going to cut about half of it right now, and then I can save this later for some shaved prime rib sandwiches, steak sandwiches, however I want to play that. But now I'm going to cut into it and see how we did. Oh, moment of truth, the anticipation. Oh baby, look at that, just absolutely juicy. Nice pinkish color in the middle. That is a perfect medium rare. Very excited about this. So I'm gonna cut a steak here, or just a small slice so I can taste it. Nice sharp knife, sliding through, and man, this is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Ready to try. Juicy, tender, flavorful, smoky, beefy. I mean, it doesn't even need the jus. It's just dripping with its own moisture. It's so good. What I've learned here is obviously the trussing did a lot of good. You can see we're pink in the center, and then we've got the little bit of gray. Teeniest hint of a smoke ring on here, but that even size made for an even cooking process, so I'm really happy with the way that turned out. The prime time performed beautifully, added just the right amount of salt to complement our meat, gave us some butteriness with a little bit of herbs, and the beef solids and the added beef flavor from the rub too added just a little extra kick. So that turned out really nice. And overall, this is one of the easiest ways to do a smoked prime rib. So I'm really happy with the way it turned out because honestly, it wasn't that hard. You can do this in any setting. If you have a smoker and want to elevate your prime rib for your holidays or your weekend event, this is the way to do it. Man, I'm just literally salivating. This is incredible. Probably one of my favorite things I've made. I think we cooked ours perfectly. If you want yours a little bit more rare, just take off 8 to 10 degrees from what we did in this recipe, or add 8 to 10 degrees vice versa if you want it a little bit more well done. But I think this, in terms of tenderness and flavor, worked out absolutely perfect. If you like this recipe and you'd like to see more, please click subscribe. If you'd like to see more for this recipe specifically, head to psseasoning.com for the products I used. And as always, check us out on all forms of social media. Till next time, I'm Chef Jed. Thanks for watching.